Technology. I'll start over again. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the December 18th special meeting of the Independent Redistricting Commission. Chair Ariano is unable to attend. I am Vice Chair Gilmer. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Independent Redistricting Commission December 18th hybrid meeting. This is a public meeting with IRC members, city staff, and community members participating online via Zoom and in person. In full compliance with state and local mandates regarding indoor mask wearing and social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency, Spanish translation is available for the duration of this meeting. If you are on Zoom, you can engage the globe icon near the hand feature at the bottom of the screen. In-person attendees who would like to use translation services can collect a headset in the back of the room and set it to channel 1. I'll give a moment for people to do that. All right, I would do a roll call. I would like to introduce myself. I am Vice Chair Gilmer, and in attendance, we have Commissioners Walter.
Hello.
Saad.
Present.
Commissioners Hill. Commissioner Ball.
Hello.
And Commissioner Earhart.
Hello.
City Clerk Karen, would you please provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how this meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Vice Chair. So for members of the public who are participating via our Zoom platform, after the Vice Chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, I ask that you engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you are calling in from a cell phone or a landline, you may press *9. And for members of the public who have chose to visit us in person, we welcome you to our second in-person IRC hybrid meeting. If you would like to provide public comment, we ask that you come to the city clerk desk and we'll have you fill out a card and we will call you in the order received. That does conclude my introduction. Thank you.
Sorry. We will proceed to item C, public comment. I will now invite comments from the public, both on Zoom and in person. Administrative Assistant Sandoval, please call for general public comments.
Thank you, Vice Chair. As City Clerk Karen just instructed, if anyone would like to give public comment on any items not on today's agenda, on Zoom, you're going to engage the hand feature in the bottom of your screen. On a landline or a cell phone, press *9. And if you are present today at this hybrid meeting, come over to the clerk's desk to fill out a public comment card. This is our final call for public comment for items not on today's agenda. Seeing no hands raised, we can continue, Vice Chair.
Thank you. So we're closing public comment and we will move to agenda item D, a presentation. At this time, we'll see the public mapping tool overview. I would like to introduce Alex Saenz, Lucian Musa, and Jesus Garcia from Genova to present the tools that we will be using. Are there any? I will let you make the presentation.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gilmer. I will go ahead and move into a brief presentation of the redistricting process for those interested members of the public who are attending via Zoom and in person today. And then we will jump into a technology demonstration of the mapping tools that GeoNova is providing for the redistricting process. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into a screen share. think, can everybody see my screen? Perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Welcome to our presentation for the December 18th Independent Redistricting Commission, Intro to Redistricting. This will be a little bit more of a review since we did also present the same material last week at the December 11th, 2021 Independent Redistricting Commission meeting. So just a brief intro of the GeoNovo team. Luciane Musa is CEO of GeoNovo, and she brings 20 years of industry GIS experience to our team. She earned her bachelor's degree with an emphasis in GIS from the University of Alabama, and she is an expert in geo events, real-time mapping, and analytics. Our lead demographer for this project is Jesus Garcia. He has over 30 years of experience in data analytics and GIS, a master's in urban planning from UCLA, and for 5 years, he was also a demographic statistician at the US Census Bureau's Population Division in Washington, DC. My name is Alex Sines. I have 13 years of experience as a GIS professional. I have a bachelor's degree in geography, and my expertise is in GIS administration and GIS project management. The goal of today's meeting, as was the case at the December 11th meeting, is to inform the public and the Independent Redistricting Commission regarding key aspects of the redistricting process, go through a brief review of mapping and demographic requirements, review the project schedule and tasks, and finally provide a technology demo towards the end of the presentation. As a brief review on redistricting, redistricting is the process of adjusting district lines every 10 years after the release of US Census data. This applies to federal, state, and local government bodies with district-based elections. The ultimate goal of this process is to create population balanced districts for equal representation across districts. The California Fair Maps Act was passed in 2019 and does provide some criteria for the redistricting process. The criteria listed on this slide are listed in order of priority. The first being that districts shall be geographically contiguous. The second, districts shall maintain geographic integrity of local neighborhoods and communities of interest. Number 3, minimize the division of cities or census designated places. Number 4, to the extent practicable, boundaries should be easily identifiable by either natural or artificial boundaries. And last but not least, number 5, to the extent practicable and where it does not conflict with the preceding criteria, districts shall be geographically compact. At a high level, we have a straightforward redistricting plan that consists of the five goals or milestones that you see on the screen. And in the next few slides, I will go into a little bit more detail regarding each of these milestones. Task 1, project planning, which is already underway and near completion. Training information on redistricting process, including the technology demos, which we'll go through today, and training materials. Assist City of Menlo Park and the IRC preparing and making this project successful, including preparation for public hearings and community meetings, such as the one we're having today. And then the last piece of that task is to begin our demographic analysis, which is already underway. Task 2, community engagement. Collaborate with city staff and IRC on the preparation of staff reports and presentation materials for community meetings and public meetings. Deployment of Districtor digital mapping interface, as well as our GeoCIM community input mapping tool. And collaborate with IRC and city staff on upcoming meetings to gather public input. Task 3, review of district boundaries. This involves the evaluation of population balance and demographic data for existing council districts. That will be a springboard to creating draft districts and making sure that the draft districts presented to the IRC comply with federal and California Voting Rights Act and the California Fair Maps Act. Task 4, the presentation of viable map candidates. So we will assist the city of Menlo Park with preparation of all mapping data and materials for public meetings. And this will be an ongoing process as we go through redistricting. And another item that we will make available to the IRC throughout this process as needed is the presentation of US Census data going all the way back from 1990 through the most current census, which was completed in 2020, and also providing data, trend data at the city level and by council district. And task 5, once all the preceding steps are complete, the IRC will adopt the final city council district map. GeoNovo will work with the IRC and the city to submit all GIS data, block equivalency files, and other supporting materials to the city in the requested format. And as a final step in that direction, we will also be working with the city to provide all the data for the adopted maps and submit that data to the San Mateo County Registrar of Voters. We presented this at the last meeting. This is the public meeting and hearing schedule. This schedule is also available on the Menlo Park redistricting website. So we had the December 11th meeting to kick off last week. December 18th, this is our meeting that we're having today, 12 to 2. We also have meetings coming up on January 13th, February 10th, March 10th, March 25th is not a meeting date, but it is a key date in the redistricting timeline, as this is the deadline for all public map submissions for IRC consideration. And the reason we have that deadline is so that us as a demographer, we have time to analyze all those submissions and provide the appropriate data to the IRC. And then the final meetings will be April 7th and April 14th with final map submission to the San Mateo County Registrar of Voters on or before April 17th, 2022. The technology tools that we'll be going through today include the Districtor Interactive Mapping Tool. This is a great tool for that enables the public to draw and submit draft districts and communities of interest. The GeoCIM, which is a community input maps. That's also going to be available for submitting communities of interest, and it will also be available in English and Spanish. And then coming soon, as we move along through the process and proposed districts start being created, we will be providing a demographic dashboard, which will allow the public and the IRC to view an interactive dashboard showing charts and graphs at the district level as proposed maps begin, as proposed maps are submitted for this process. And before we open it up to questions, I will go ahead and jump into our tech demos. So I'm just going to switch screen shares here. Okay, and can everybody see the mapping website? Okay, I think we're good. So this is the City of Menlo Park redistricting maps page. This is the Districtor tool. Again, this link is also available on the City of Menlo Park redistricting website. And there are a couple of major items that I'll be demoing here today. One is the ability to draw draft districts, and the other one is the ability to draw communities of interest. So we'll begin by just doing a brief demonstration of drawing draft districts. You just click this purple button right here. Okay, and this will take us to a map of Menlo Park with you'll see the city boundary, and then all city council districts will be composed. The basic building block is what's called a US Census Block. So those are the lines that you see here on the map. If you click on the paintbrush tool here, you'll see that there's a brush slider, which enables you to either decrease the size to select just a few census blocks, or if you increase the brush size using the slider, you can select many census blocks in a single click. And then you'll see real-time feedback showing the population change for the selected census blocks and the area that was selected. So one of the things here, which is important, especially for members of the public who wish to submit draft districts, is we are looking for population balance as much as possible. The variance can be up to 10%, but obviously the closer we have to perfect balance, the better. So in this case, if we were to take the 2020 census population for Menlo Park and divide that by 5 perfectly distributed council districts, that would give us an ideal population of approximately 7,001. The tool also provides, in the bottom line here, you'll see a max population deviation. This tells you the difference between your highest and lowest district population relative to the ideal population. So there is some math going on here behind the scenes, but the tool takes care of all that and gives the public feedback in real time. I'll go ahead and, so as we can see here, we have a district that's not quite population balanced. So if we wanted to go back, we can actually use this erase tool. There's an erase button right here. And let's go ahead and decrease the size of that slider. And you'll see that once I click on the erase, it'll actually decrease the population, and the bar on the side of the map will also adjust accordingly. There we go. This is pretty close to balanced. And we can go ahead and do the same thing here. You know, if we were to select a different color, again, it's giving us that feedback in real time. Once someone's done drawing districts that that they would like to submit, they can go ahead and save and or share their maps. So there's a save button in the top right corner of the application. You click save, it'll give you a URL. This can be shared through email, social media, or other means to get the word out on the draft map that you've drawn. You can also give your map a name. So we'll call this Menlo Park Draft 1218. Today is December 18th. So once that's done, you can share that map to the gallery. And the gallery, if you click back on the browser, we'll go ahead and click back here. And we'll refresh the page. And we will see the map that we just drafted right here. If we click on that button, you'll see the geography, the population figures, and also the deviation. So all the statistics will be available directly from the main mapping tool website. Another thing that I'd like to point out here is for those who are interested in the demographics of the districts that they might be drawing, the tool also provides real-time feedback for the demographic data of each of the districts that are being drawn. So as you can see, the blue number 1 here corresponds to the block selected in blue, yellow to the block selected in yellow, and then green, demographic breakdown to the block selected in green. You can also, if you like, you can select different demographic groups. So there's a list here if you're so inclined to select those demographic groups as well. One question that was brought up at the previous meeting, which I thought might be helpful, this little magnifying glass here, if you hover over some of the census blocks, it'll actually give you a real-time demographic breakdown of the total population, and then counts for each of the demographic groups within that census block, which is pretty handy, and it's a pretty cool tool that you can use to get feedback again in real time as you're hovering over blocks in the application. So with that demonstration complete, I'll go ahead and jump into communities of interest. The communities of interest tool draws exactly the same way as the district tool, which is great because it'll minimize the learning curve a little bit. The only difference would be that communities of interest are not necessarily restricted by population. So they are very quite subjective, and they're really meant for us as a demographer and the IRC to get that input at the community level, the areas and those groups that are important to you in the local community. So as you can see here, just click the paintbrush. Again, move the slider up or down to select more or fewer blocks. And since we have Stanford School of Medicine right here in the middle, near the middle of the city, we'll just call this Stanford Medicine Test COI. And the tool also enables you to draw a description here. You could say, keep our community in a single district. And same rule applies. You can also save your communities of interest. It'll provide a unique URL for that as well. Sharing is much the same as the districts. Stanford Medicine, spell that right. And if we go back to the gallery, we can refresh the page and we should see our test COI as well. So the tool is designed to be approachable and user-friendly for the public so that anyone can go online, draw their draft districts or communities of interest, and really give us as a demographer and the IRC that local input, to draw the best districts and communities of interest possible. Our second and final demo will be the GeoCIM tool. Let's browse over here. Okay, it looks like everybody can see the survey. So this is more of a lightweight tool. It's designed to be for communities of interest. Again, just draw an area of interest, leave some comments or other information about the area. And then if you'd like, if you're affiliated with a local community group or organization, you can fill that out, which we'll go through all those steps individually in the survey. If you're using a mobile device, the map will try to zoom you in on your area so that you don't have to manually find your location on the map. Since I'm using a laptop for this demonstration, we'll just go ahead and zoom in to this central portion of Menlo Park. And as you can see, as I zoom in, the neighborhoods come through. And as I zoom out, the level of detail adjusts accordingly. This polygon or drawing tool in the top right enables you to, it brings up a cursor, and that basically enables you on a mobile device using a touchscreen, just tap and you can start drawing, or on a laptop or desktop, just click once to start drawing. We'll just draw a simple rectangular shape here and double click or double tap to complete your drawing. If you'd like to go back and make any changes, this pencil right here, this is an edit button. You can actually expand or contract the vertices in your polygon drawing. Or if you think, okay, well, this shape got a little bit irregular, I want to go back and just start over. There's this little trash can icon that enables you to delete. And then you can just start drawing once again. We'll just draw a simple shape here. And that's all you need to do there. The next part, is this a community of interest? Yes, we'll say yes this time. We'll say, let's see, this is we'll just call this Park COI 1218. It also, just like the districtor tool, enables you to input a description. We're meeting our requirement for geographically compact. As I mentioned in the intro, if you are affiliated with an organization such as a local community group or voter advocacy group, this could be a formal or informal organization, doesn't really matter, but you can enter that information here. In this case, I'll just put Geo Novo. If you think of any final details you'd like to add, you also have this text box at the end of the survey. And if there's any locations that you'd like to share pictures of, for example, a park, a community center, local housing development, things of that nature that might be focal points for the community. This survey also provides the opportunity to share pictures. So we'll go ahead and upload Geonovo and City of Menlo Park logo. You can see it loads up there and just click submit. It'll take all of the data, load it up to the hosting site, and there you go. The survey is complete, and that concludes our technology demos for today. We also have a web map that'll be available coming soon, and in addition to the dashboard that I described during the presentation. So thank you very much, and I'll go ahead and hand it back to the Vice Chair Gilmer and turn it over to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Science. I will open it up to questions from the commission before we open it up to the public. Commissioners, Commissioner Sid?
Thank you, Mr. Sines. This is very informative. I've seen the recordings before, but that's the first time I'm watching it live, which is great. I have a question for you. So in per your presentation, is the block the smallest unit to be added or subtracted from the redistricting, or can you go below a block? And if you, for the record, if you define what a block is.
Yes, a census block is the smallest unit of geography that is available in the census data. Well, I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
So the definition of a block is a street that's contained between two perpendicular street. Are we agreeing on this?
Not necessarily. A census block is a geography that's defined by the census, and they can be relatively large for areas with low or low density populations, or as you saw for the City of Menlo Park, some of those blocks can be extremely small, sometimes the size of a single city block due to the population density in this area, and that's pretty common in urban areas like the Bay Area, whereas in areas like the Central Valley or maybe some more rural areas of the state, you may see very large census blocks that a single census block could be the size of the entire City of Menlo Park.
Got it.
So it really varies greatly depending on population and population density.
Thank you.
Also, this is Jesus Garcia, demographer. As a general rule, it's also not recommended to split census geography because the data that comes from the census block is for the entire geography. And so when you split a block, we don't know what side the counts of the population are. So as a general rule, again, the Bureau tries to create geographies that make sense to the community for the most part. And so again, that would be our recommendation. And I think given the density of Menlo Park, that probably will not be an issue. We've been able to get very, very close without splitting geographies. And so what's also interesting about the city here is you have a highly dense community, but then some of the blocks, 2 or 3, go out into the bay. And so you see they're very large and they basically go into the middle of the bay. And so you have this huge geography with no people. So again, it's census geography. It's defined by the Bureau, and it's not recommended for the most part to split, especially urban areas like we have here.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I have a follow-up question. So this is, from the way I see it right now, it's more of a mathematical or geographical exercise, but who are we as the commissioners supposed to study also the social and environmental impact?
Those are all good, very important questions, but what we're dealing with is there's the creation of the geography that will comprise the Menlo Park City Council. And what you're talking about there could be communities of interest. So very much a community. So we have an area that's, let's say it's highly dense, low income, moderate income housing. If we use the tools here, define that area as a community of interest, that definitely can get brought in and brought together a whole. And so all the socioeconomic, other statistics can come into play. There are other tools that the Bureau has. And when you'll see the lookup tool that we're going to generate, you'll see some population, some other things in the background. But to get to your exact question about how the lines are created, they are created based on population. All other factors are important, and that's why you have the community and you have the board here to sort of define for us, what is the geography that's important. We've started with the current districts. We've also started with your current neighborhoods. So that's the base, and then from there you tell us where to go from there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Other questions from the commissioners? At this time, I'd like to open it up for public comments and questions. When you're recognized, please state your name and the district in which you currently reside. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So at this time, I would like to invite any member of the public who would like to either ask a question or make any comment related to the presentation and the redistricting process to go ahead and engage that hand feature in the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in from a landline or a cell phone, you may press *9. And for anyone in our physical audience, if you would like to ask a question, make any sort of comment, please feel free to step up to the podium. So again, just opening up the dialogue to any member of the public who wishes to speak. Seeing no hands raised, Vice Chair, you may continue.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our current presentation. I did make one mistake initially. I forgot to introduce the alternate, Brian Kissel. So I'd like to recognize alternate Commissioner Kissel. And I believe that concludes. Do we have a move to adjourn? There's no more activity, so we will
So
adjourn.
moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion to adjourn. Everybody in agreement, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. We will now adjourn the meeting of the Independent Redistricting Commission for December 18th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And just for anyone who might still be with us, our next IRC meeting will be January 13th of 2022. We'll be sending out those agenda materials out the week before. Thanks so much.